Welcome to another episode of The Trenches. On today, we have a very special guest, Kansas State alumni and owner of Sports Academy, Chad Faulkner. What's up, Chad? How you doing?
Hey, Nico. Good, man.
Thanks for even taking the time out to let me sit down and kind of pick your brain. Obviously, you're a big sports fan. When did sports become a big passion for you?
Yeah, man. Sports were a big passion for me from the earliest days I can remember growing up in East Texas. And so back there, it's football country, right? And so you kind of, as soon as you can walk, you have a football in your hand. And so that was always my passion and dream right from the start. And then it really just got into all sports, for sure.
Why Kansas State?
Kansas State, White. I grew up in Texas and in Wichita, Kansas.
Okay.
So at the time, the final decision came down to a few different schools in the Big Eight at the time, and Kansas State was going to be closest to my family and closest to my friends, when it really came down to it. And everything in between was just kind of, the decisions wasn't that hard. So it really came down to my mom ultimately.
Okay. Now, when you say final decision, were you highly recruited coming out of high school?
I was medium recruited, I think. It was different back in the day, right? We used to have film canisters that went around different places, and recruiting happened differently. And sometimes you'd have coaches sit on your film, and so it was a different kind of strategy than it happens today.
So did you actually have to give a cassette to coaches?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and how
there's
did they
only
give
so
it back
many of
to
them
you?
you got. Well, eventually they'll send them back to you. And then certain coaches that were undecided on you, they may hold on to it a little bit longer. That would cost you some other opportunities. So it's still difficult. It was difficult back then to get to that level, to be discovered, if you will, and just like it is today, because there's so many athletes now. So it's very complicated. I think both of them are. So surround yourself with great people, great coaches like yourself, and the great men that you're surrounding these young fellows around. That's really makes the big difference.
Perfect. I know things are a lot different now. They're about to pass that rule where college players can get paid. How do you feel about that?
I'm not close enough to the issue to maybe know all the ins and outs and all of it. Okay. What I know is that college players get paid. So it happens now, whether people want to admit it or not. So that's part of what the game is. It's undeniable. It's the way it goes. And then I think there's some certain rules that make it pretty tough for certain kids that come from families that don't have a lot of resources, just to live on campus, just to do some of the other things besides be a football player on campus. You got to have a few dollars in your pocket to make that work. And I remember even back in the day, I wasn't allowed to work, as a scholarship athlete. And my mom didn't have the money, so it was all about the summers working or making a little bit of cash on a night job or something, doing something, right? Which for me was bouncing at a bar back in the day.
Other than, being close to home, was it anything that was really pulling Kansas State close to you? I know you played for Coach Bill Schneider.
Yeah, Coach Schneider fortunately came my senior year. So now the pull was really, the guys that recruited me there were pretty special, and that was Jim Dickey's. He was head coach at that time, and unfortunately the same men that had recruited me for a couple of years and been in my living room with my mom and making all the good promises, all those gentlemen got fired the second game into my freshman year. And so then, I had the honor, privilege, and interesting experience of playing for 4 different head coaches. And from the time I was a freshman, I had an interim, and then we had a new guy come in for 3 years, and then fortunately Coach Schneider came in, and that really made all the difference, and frankly my life, in terms of, as an athlete and enjoying the game and kind of going out with the right taste, but really what he taught me as a man and as just from character that really has propelled me my whole life.
What's one of the things that really stuck with you, like you said, that really prepared you for your whole life?
Yeah, there's Coach Schneider, has his 16 goals, and so within those, there's an answer for about everything that can give you a guidepost in life. And so one of the greatest gifts that I took out, I'll just pick a couple. One is commitment. So it's when you commit to something, you commit. You shouldn't commit to things you're not going to commit to. So there needs to be a little bit of thought before you get into certain things. And so, but once you're in and you commit, you should be able to stick in there and keep working, because the answer's in the work. You can find the answers through the work if you approach things humbly and with humility and really ask a lot of questions of other people that know more. So Coach taught a lot about that. He told me always to expect to win. So that was pretty interesting coming from a program that lost as much as we did. So it was hard to believe, but he really stuck it in on me, and I believed, because all of a sudden I felt the difference of when it wasn't that way, and then when all of a sudden I was experiencing leadership that was really on point, that was really focused on the athletes, frankly, and what our journey was. And when Coach Schneider made it so much about that, all of a sudden, it just felt a little different. So it was a little bit easier to follow, his advice. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've always heard good things about Coach Schneider. Most interesting thing or best game that you played in. I know the battles back then were probably crazy. There wasn't so many rules. Things that when you guys were playing were probably the reason there are rules now. What's one of the craziest games that you played in, like the most memorable?
Yeah, you know what? I would probably say there's a number of them. And again, our team was not good, and so we were always kind of on the other side of these games. So I don't have any big victory stories to tell. But I do remember about this time in my senior year, and we were playing. No, it was my junior year actually, and we were playing Oklahoma State at Oklahoma State down in Stillwater, and it was a Halloween night. And it was about 85 degrees and humid on a Halloween night, and the fans were pretty fired up. And they had a running back named Thurman Thomas at the time, which I believe he's in the Hall of Fame now. And the guy that was backing him up was a guy named Barry Sanders.
Wow.
And so it was pretty interesting to see that kind of talent on a field on a Halloween night when the weather was strange and everything else was kind of odd. So there's a couple of those games that stick out. And then Oklahoma State always had a good reputation of being some pretty hard-hitting dudes.
Okay,
so you kind of remember all that too. So,
Perfect.
but there was always playing in that level. You remember, in the trenches, as an offensive lineman, right? And so to me, it was really about the different guys I played against and really having the honor of playing against multiple All-Americans and guys that went to play on Sundays the following year. So even as a program that struggled, as an athlete to have that challenge, that was amazing.
Definitely Big A's always been a great place to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
After college, I know a lot of people nowadays they call it the process of like the PostGrad Depression, when you're stuck, like you just got off the schedule, you've been used to going to school and you've been on a schedule for 4 or 5 years, and then you go to the biggest accomplishment of your life so far for most, and then you're back at square zero. Did you go through any postgrad depression, or did you already have your mind set what you want to do when you graduated?
Yeah, I don't know that I really had my mind set, but I knew there came a point when I knew I was going to hang it up.
Okay.
And that was pretty much when I was going through after the season, and I was going to have some free agent opportunities, but it was hard. I mean, I was realistic. I was 6'1.5", stretched to 6'2". Right?
You write 6'2" on paper.
Back in the day, of course. I did back when you were 6'3", when you can get away with it, right? So the reality was, even being a little undersized, even though I'd had some accolades, it really didn't seem like it was going to be the greatest career choice for me. So I got pretty focused on what was the next step for me. And so I had a period there where I wasn't sure. I thought I may want to coach because I loved the game so much and I loved everything about that. And then I had another part of me that said, hey man, I think I want to go to work and see if I can change some things in my life here and make some things work a little differently. So I ended up choosing that path.
Okay, definitely. Things seem like they chose the right route.
Yeah.
When you decided what you wanted to do next, what was the first thing right after college, and you were like, you know what, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to stick to it, and this is going to propel my future to being an adult?
You know what, for some reason at that time, what I had mostly stuck with me was a philosophy. It wasn't necessarily what it was going to be, it was more of an approach to how I was wanting to go do something. Because I didn't know, I frankly didn't know. I didn't have a father in my life guiding me. I didn't, had some great coaches and some other men and some amazing friends, but my friends were trying to figure out the same thing I was. Right? And so, so really what I wanted to settle in on was having an opportunity, frankly, to learn from other people. I wanted to be at a bigger table, if you will, so I had a chance to learn from people that had been where I'm trying to get to. I wanted the ability to go produce. I wanted the ability, if I could go win and create value somewhere, I wanted to be able to capture some of that value for myself, if you will. And I just wanted to always be surrounded by great people and be in an environment I was learning. So if I could accomplish all those things, I was willing to look at a bunch of different jobs. And so that really led me into more of a professional area, suit and tie job of managed healthcare consulting at the time. And that started my career for about 7 years working in the healthcare industry, frankly.
Okay. And then what brought you back to sports? Like what in there were you like, you know what, this is fun, this is cool? And you're like, you know what, I need to get back to that love. Because I know, for me, I know I love football, but when I was graduating, I'm like, do I really want to go sit down somewhere? Or it's like, I've always been around so much energy and competition. I'm like, I can't see myself just sitting down. I'm going to be antsy. It's like, I feel like sports always draw people back. Like, when did you get drawn back to? And you're like,
well, my drawback was my kids.
Okay.
Frankly, I mean, it really was, and that's why how the academy got started behind all that too. Is frankly my daughter playing club level volleyball, and my son as a young football and basketball kid.
Okay.
And so as they started, on their journey, like as a father and their mother as well, we were committed to providing them the best opportunities that they could, so that they could go find themselves. If they found it in sports, great, but it wasn't going to be because they couldn't find it, if you will.
Okay.
And so that really led to looking for, just some of the right people to be around them. As long as they were passionate about sports, I wanted to feed that passion. And so because that was my passion, that doesn't necessarily mean it was their passion, but as soon as they showed a little bit of it, Dad was in there. Dad was in there trying to say, let me put this in front of you and see if you like this a little bit. So it really is my kids.
Perfect. Okay. And then, why 1,000 Oats? Why tailor to the masses? Most people, they get, it's just weight room or just football or just basketball. Why cover everything?
Yeah, you know what? I think there's a little bit, sometimes it's okay to be naive in situations, right? If you have experience in other ways, right? And sometimes not having the exact specific experience can actually be helpful, because you can come at things a little bit differently. You can see some challenges, perhaps from a different angle, and you can see some solutions in a different angle. So for me, the idea really came from an orientation of what's going to be first right for the athletes, what's going to be right for coaches and trainers and doctors and the people supporting the athletes. So I had some pretty good ideas of what that experience could be like from being a Division I college football player and actually experiencing how special that was to be the athlete with all these great professionals surrounding you. And so that really is what kind of motivated the idea of like, how could we create that for other kids that grew up more like I did, where in my family, I couldn't have come to a sports academy unless I came through our foundation or I had somebody kind of paying my way, if you will. However, I wanted to create it more for the masses, that special experience, because I knew if I could get to a large enough numbers that we could actually make the prices low enough for more people to participate.
Got you.
So, and in doing that, part of understanding the business around all that was that you have to create a whole lot of other business to make that business plan work. And so that's really what we went to accomplish. So it really ended up being, if we're, training you're the off season, right? That's our time, right? And so if we can be perpetually in off season because we support athletes across a number of sports, that was going to be part which would make a bigger operation possible, which then could allow more people to participate. So it's really a kind of a fundamental business idea that I was able to bring very naively to a very complicated business. And so I've learned a lot, and I've had some really great people teach me a lot, and I've had some really bad people teach me a lot. And so the good thing is that to me, you got to keep learning. All lessons.
All lessons.
It's all valuable, that's for sure.
So how did Kobe Bryant get involved into the vision of Sports Academy?
Yeah, it's amazing. A really amazing story. I wonder sometimes too. Other than I know what our people do here and and who I am, we're real, right? And so I think that was one of the first things Kobe was attracted to, is that he understood that we were real people, we were authentic in what we were doing. The practical matter of it all is one of my business partners, John Spots, was running the club, the Mamba girls basketball team with Kobe. And so as John and Kobe got to know each other, we're coaching together for about a year and a half. Eventually there became a time where it seemed appropriate to introduce me to Kobe. And so as soon as we met, we talked sports, he was curious about what I was doing with the academy and who was I trying to do something with young people and what right did I have to try to help them make them better. And it was great, man. It was awesome because I love the challenge. You can bring that on. And when when your mission's real and your purpose is real, that's really where we hit it. And so it kind of came through, again, his kids, right? And my business partner's kids. That's kind of where their energy had turned to. And then as they were just trying to provide the best resources for their kids and their athletes that they were working and shepherding there, they found us. And that's kind of how that happened. And then as soon as Kobe and I got on, we really just came together at, it's kind of maybe two guys at an interesting time of life with the ability and the time and the energy to actually want to go do something like this and to go take it on. And so to me, Kobe joined us, and this was a real passion for him. This was something he was really into because he was all about the athletes, as we all know, and helping other people find the best way to, find themselves, if you will. And so as we aligned on that, the partnership became really clear, really pure from what it was, and it was up until the first day we met, until the last day that it ended. So So yeah, so it's a really special time in our life, special in the history of our organization, really special in the things that we learned and we shared together. And so I'm just very grateful to have had that opportunity.
Man, like that's such a big thing. Like that M was literally everywhere, and like it was like it made people so curious, like because Kobe doesn't attach himself to too many things, and then to have that opportunity to have them attached to you know, something that you love and you put together, you know, in your little baby, like man, I know that really had to be amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
For a lot of people are becoming entrepreneurs nowadays. And
love it.
Like I like to, like we were talking about earlier, I like to learn from the people that are younger than me, older than me, because the young keep you energetic and new, and then the people that's older than me, they help me like stay focused because they've been through a lot of things. So I really try to listen up and get there. Then I get some of the cool juice from the young kids, and I try to mix it up. So, and I'm still going through this today. Still, it's like I always feel like I'm not ready for something, or I'm unsure. You know, just that being uncomfortable when trying to grow. Like, what helps you, you know, grow and just take things head on, and what do you do for yourself? Like, and advice for like a early 20 to 25-year-old, really just trying to figure everything out and just with a open arms to the world. Like, what helps you be able to just continue to grow?
Yeah, man, it's gonna sound a little weird maybe, but it's almost like give yourself a little bit of a break and then get back to work. So the point being, you know, that it's when you're 25, you've lived a while, right? But you haven't lived that long, and there's only so many things you've tried or you've failed at, frankly, or you've been successful at. So what I really think matters the most, and I think it matters still, you know, at 53, like I am, is that you need a personal philosophy. Because if not, you're going to move around a lot. You're going to have other people move your philosophy around. And while you're searching and seeking, you know, you need to be searching and seeking for what's guiding you every day. Because as an entrepreneur, you're going to make decisions. You know, are you chasing money? You know, you chasing work to do with other people. What are you chasing, right? I mean, why are you doing what you're doing? And so if you're not grounded in your own personal philosophy, I think you're going to keep chasing. You're not going to be quite sure what you're going to do, because you're not going to quite know. You may not know when to say no to something, and a lot of times you need to say no to a lot of things. Now, again, as a serial entrepreneur, and I've done a fair number of things in my life, I have to tell myself no, to say no to certain things, because most everything new and is interesting and fun. And when you're working with great people, it's super energetic. But you got to figure out what you really want to get done, because you will run out of time, as we know. And so you could run out of money, you run out of time, you run out of life, you run out of relationships. A lot of things can happen. So if you have your own philosophy and you know you're the right person, then I think you can be grounded in your decisions and seek to be a student, seek to be a teacher, you know, so you're really learning and you can really share. And I think that's what's worked for me. And so I think everybody's got to find their own. But I see a lot of people struggle when they don't find their own personal philosophy. They're not quite sure where they're standing sometimes. And I think it's hard I think other people that are experienced see that, and it makes it a little bit harder to commit. So there's something in that groundedness that counts.
What's something that you chase?
I chase, you know, I chase more peace and gratitude, I think, with what I'm doing.
Was it always that?
You know what, it is, and it comes through challenge, though, for me. It doesn't come from sitting on a beach. You know, it really comes from challenge. You know, I like to work with interesting people that are trying to do something. You know, so somebody's got passion, somebody has energy, somebody has a plan, is actually trying to get stuff done. That's what I've enjoyed your work, and I've seen you do your work live. And that's intentional. There are people that are having an experience with you that are learning something. Coaches are learning, players are learning. When they leave an experience with you and go away from you after that day, it sticks with them. That counts. And so wherever I find opportunity to be involved, to support, to lead, to drive, to create, that's really where my juices go. And I chase that energy a little bit more than anything else, because I know in that will come more, because you're a young guy and you're doing your thing, right? and so it's a little bit of an offensive lineman mentality, right? I'm not looking for the lights myself. I'm not looking to do interviews all over the place. I think there's not a lot of them out there, frankly. But so to me, it's a lot more interesting to find other people and let them shine.
Perfect.
And work.
So Chad, I know there's a sports academy in of course, Thousand Oaks, Redondo Beach. Now tell me more about the one in Frisco, Texas.
Yeah. So I'd say, Nico, our location in Frisco, Texas, that's right, man. So that's it's a very special place, just like it is on the West Coast here and the Sports Academy here. So we've spread our wings out there and are working in a little bit different environment. You know, we definitely get on with a lot of football here on the West Coast, but a lot of basketball, as we're known for as well. You know, out in the Midwest, we'll work a bit more on the football side of things because it's football country. And frankly, where we're at is in the Baylor Scott and White Sports Therapy and Research Center out there, and we're on the campus where the Cowboys World Headquarters is. So we are surrounded by football, and we're surrounded by some of the best minds in medicine and sports medicine and physical therapy. And so now as we're coming in from the performance side, we kind of work to fill an interesting gap within that environment where we're working with some of the best orthopedic surgeons and neurospine surgeons and concussion specialists and physical therapists, and then you start bringing in what we know how to do from the healthy body or kind of injury prevention. And so we really have a tremendous amount of resources in the environment we're in, some great minds that have all come together kind of at the peak of their careers. We have the research elements coming behind everything we're doing, working with Gatorade Sports Science Institute within our environment. And we're just always right at that edge in that environment. It's a very sports culture driven environment out there. And again, there's a lot of action out there. We work with the Texas G League team and the environment out there as well, the Texas Legends. So those guys are owned by Mark Cuban out there, which we know owns the Mavs. And so again, a great sports culture. We're excited out there. We're going to get you out there because I know we got some big boys out there that want to get on that turf.
Here we come.
So so that's kind of what's happening out in Frisco, Texas.
Perfect. Frisco, Texas. Yeah. Chad, I really want to say thank you. I appreciate it. I've been waiting. I didn't know what questions to ask, not ask. It's like, I feel like growing up, you always want to talk to successful people and hear their stories too, because you think you can copy them. But like as I'm getting older, it's like you hear it, you take it, and you really take what you need.
Right.
But a lot of people, especially like, people that I've grown up around, there's a short of resources of people that you can feel credible that you can learn from. More mistakes you can learn from, yes. I feel like I've always been around people that I can learn from mistakes-wise, but it's, for my demographic, it hasn't always been people I feel like I want to trust to be great leaders. So like I really appreciate everything you're doing. Welcome me in here, allow my boys to come in and invite other boys around here and have some fun and for a great experience. And for sitting down with me. So thank you again. Thank you for welcoming me in the Sports Academy, and please, I hope we can continue to work through more.
Nico, it's on. Feels like we're just starting.